Live, actually. We just started. Sorry, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Jeremy just jumped in, so a little behind, but we got Jack here, Jack's Business Talk, and we got Jeremy Taggart, Pittsburgh real estate agent, broker, what, nine-time house hacker, I believe. What were you at
Seven.
again? Seven. Okay, so not up to PTO for life yet, but still seven's an amazing number. But welcome, guys.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for
having me.
having us on.
Yeah. So, Jeremy, Jack's also in the Pittsburgh area, so he also had some questions for you. But a lot of people know Lars in our community and Harrison, Trade Better, and some other folks, and I know you have been working with them. So maybe kind of give my audience quickly, like your background, what you're working on, your portfolio, and things like that.
Yeah, so I am an investor and an agent in Pittsburgh. Started out as, can you hear me? Good. Okay. Yeah, so started out as an investor back in 2016. Did that for a couple years, got my first couple of house hacks, and then I jumped into the agent side of things. Went full time into the agent side of things in 2018. So since then, 2018 till now, just kind of working with investor clients on the agent side, building my own portfolio. Like you said, I've done 7 house hacks, so that's kind of been my main thing, and then doing some burrs, some value add type stuff. uh, Mostly my portfolio is 2 to 8 unit buildings. So it's really just been kind of like value add properties, building that up along with the house hacks and almost 50 units now. So just kind of doing the two in tandem since then.
Awesome. So how do you and Jack not know each other yet? So Jack is doing
I
a
don't
lot of
know.
cool things. Yeah. So Jack also has a YouTube channel, Jack's Business Talk. And I know Jeremy, is that kind of, I know we talked a little bit offline, but is that kind of where you're pivoting to as far as your team? You're going to be focusing more on that side and letting your agents do the transaction side of things?
Yeah, because I've been so in the weeds, so to speak, on the agent side, like doing deals myself. Even like once I started the team, it was more just a supplement with the agents on my team. So kind of getting out of the day to day a little bit and maybe doing more marketing for the team, just in general. I know we don't do a ton on social media. It's just been so busy, especially in Pittsburgh, with just doing transactions on the agent side, but definitely want to try to focus more on that going forward for sure.
Yeah. So Jack, you had some questions maybe for Jeremy about what he's doing on the agent side or investor side. So go at it, man.
Well, I think one of my biggest questions is since you do both the investing and the real estate side, what are some of the complications that you see, especially in our market?
Yeah, as far as like my interests as an investor interfering with clients, is that kind of what you're meaning by that?
I meant like as far as like trying to balance everything and making sure that your tenants are being taken care of as well as the people you're representing for other transactions.
Yeah, it's oh, definitely a lot of work for sure. Probably more than I would like, at least from the beginning. So that's why I'm trying to kind of systematize things more, but really just having a good team on the agent side and the property management side. Like once I really started to kind of scale the team up, I really needed to kind of get the management stuff in place. And my wife helps a lot too. She really started to help kind of as we got a lot of units and kind of doing the agent thing on a high level. So really just having good teams in place to make sure that everything can continue to run optimally. And I think like I've always focused more on the agent side recently and trying to prevent like getting too big of a portfolio just because if I did kind of go up to say like 100 plus units and do the agent thing, it definitely could have made it very hard. But yeah, I think just kind of not going crazy with the investor side, but still getting a decent enough portfolio that I was meeting my financial goals on that side of things. And they work pretty hand in hand as well. So like I'm already looking at stuff for myself as an investor. Really, it's the same mindset. So it's like if I see something good that I think would be a good investment property, we're sending it out to clients that might be looking for that type of property or in a certain area as well. So I think there's a lot of overlaps that allow the two to work tandem to the point where they're not two separate businesses. So it can kind of run smoothly to the point where I can do both at the same time without it getting too overwhelming. But yeah, it's definitely at times it can be stressful for sure. And like on as far as like I've always prioritized the agent side of things. So like say there was a deal I might be interested in or one of the guys on my team, we've always prioritized the agent side of things. Like we're not going to steal a property from a client because the agent side of things is the active income, which definitely want to make sure that continues to run smoothly, and it's such a relationship business that we're not trying to be short-sighted when it comes to stuff like that.
Awesome. Let me just say good morning to everyone tuning in. So we got, let's say, Flavio here from Grandview, Washington. John Morse, Late Start Wealth. Lane 5 Ready is Andy in Ohio. Lars is here. We got Jim, Frank, Old Guy REI, Jason, and yeah. So Jeremy, maybe I think a lot of people are tuning in because they want to know more about the Pittsburgh market. So after the ORAD event in February, there was a few people that started pivoting from the markets that they were in. So some people were like in Ohio, Lars was in Delaware trying to invest, and after speaking with me and Jack and Mikey and some other folks, a lot of people are pivoting a little bit and they've contacted you. So you've been working with Lars. How's it been connecting with some of the people in the ORAT community, and what does the Pittsburgh market look like right now?
Yeah, I think it's some eye-opening, I guess you could say, whenever people see mainly the rent to price ratios here. Like with Lars right now, we got a deal under contract, a duplex side by side, nice duplex in a up and coming area for 130,000. So like there's not very many markets left in the country that you can still do that and get those kind of rent to price ratios for something that isn't completely trashed or in a rough area. So I think you're going to see more of that. There's just so few markets left in the country, like Pittsburgh, maybe Ohio, some of the other Midwest markets, that interest rates shooting up and prices going up, and the rents not quite keeping up with home prices in most markets. It's just a rush to the affordable cities. It kind of seems like it's definitely gotten more and more on the agent side with the out of state investment. Since I started in 2018, it was probably mostly local clients to the point now where it's mostly out of state clients as far as the majority of our investor clients. So it's been interesting to see that progress on the agent side alongside the investor side of things, because like I look back at we think it's cheap now, but like I look back at pre-COVID in Pittsburgh, like we didn't realize how really blessed we were at that point in time. Like you were hitting 2% rule deals all over the place. So it's just kind of been interesting to see that dynamic, but it's still in terms of positive cash flow from day one in pretty much most neighborhoods here, especially if you're focusing on the multifamily side of things, except for like the high end A class areas, you can still get some positive cash flow. Plus, if you want to get into the value add type stuff by doing rehabs or fixer uppers, there's plenty of opportunity to buy something under market value, renovate it, and have a decent chunk of equity on the back end. So those are two very good strategies that still work here for now until I think the secret might be getting out a little bit, but it's not, I wouldn't say mainstream yet.
What would be maybe the biggest challenge for like an out-of-state investor or someone, first going into the Pittsburgh market? So what should they be looking for, and what can you assist them with?
So I think it's very important to have a good team, which is one of the reasons why I got started as an agent in the first place, because I knew there was a need for investor focused real estate agents. So it's just making sure you're working with good people, because we have seen out of state clients kind of get burned a little bit, whether they're trying to source, whether it be contractors or try to do things maybe on their own and not trust like the systems that we have in place, or just working with people that don't have their best intentions at heart. So I think that's important, just not here but anywhere in general, is working with a good team and people that you can trust. That, and it's a very unique market, as Jack probably knows. It's a lot of these neighborhoods, especially in the city, are street by street, good sections, bad sections. You really have to know the areas to kind of succeed here, just because there are so many variables that, especially with these older homes and older neighborhoods and the different dynamics of them, that if you don't really know what you're doing, it's easy to get burned from that standpoint as well on the actual physical neighborhood or property type thing. Like with the older properties, we have old electrical, old plumbing, you have asbestos type things. So just knowing what to look for on the older buildings versus some cities that have newer stuff, that's kind of a big learning curve as well. But we've seen so much here just dealing with these older properties that it's kind of second nature for us at this point. But if you're just jumping into a market, it can be intimidating, especially like some of the basements that are like dirt floors, support posts or old, uh, basically logs that they use to support the foundations on some of these properties. So all of those dynamics, I think, is definitely makes it a little trickier to navigate for sure. But I think that's kind of the value we bring to clients is knowing how to navigate all that when they're coming here fresh from out of town, basically.
Absolutely. I think the older homes, like you said, the basement, like for me was something new. I think the plumbing, the sewer is always somewhat of an issue, seems like for some of these older homes. Um, Jack, what's your take on that as far as I know you're considering getting your license, maybe becoming an agent, things like that. What is your thoughts on like the Pittsburgh market and what do people need to be aware of?
The biggest thing I learned very quickly when I started investing is not so much paying attention. I mean, it's important to pay attention to when the house was built, but looking at the house in general, like what does it date as far as the last remodel? Like I got houses that are from the mid 1800s that when I bought them originally looked like the last update was in the 90s. So you know that nothing's been touched behind the walls since at least the 90s. Now, I got lucky and lucked out. They just on that one property, they just happen to like older style, so it looked like the 90s, but it was all brand new stuff, less than 5 years, like wiring and everything. So, and that was kind of a special occasion, but typically look at what the house looks like. Look at like the cabinets, the kitchen. What does it date to? And kind of bank on that potentially being the last time anything was touched behind the walls. Making sure that you don't have, for example, like copper sewage plumbing. Okay, like that stuff hasn't been used since I think it's the 1940s or the 50s. And it erodes very quickly. So make sure that you don't have that terracotta plumbing, knob and tube wiring. What does the roof look like? Just if you see warps in the roof, if you see something that sticks out to you, don't just brush it off as something that is, you know, something minor. Like take a look at it for a second and think to yourself, why does it stick out?
Absolutely. When you talk about the dated homes, that's maybe where Frank grew up. We talked about that in the accountability group last night. But we also got Zach joining from Instagram, and he says, I may need to buy something in Pittsburgh and join the club. So, yeah, man.
No,
So,
all sold out, fresh out.
Zach is an agent in Arizona, I believe, but he's in the school community also. But yeah, man, connect with Jeremy, his team, and definitely he can help you out. But Jack, I know you've been talking about too, like the Pittsburgh market, and maybe Jeremy can jump into. But you were saying maybe small multis are getting harder to find that cash flow. Do you think a lot of people
Mhm.
are trying to do the house hack more now, like what Jeremy has done 7 times? So, like you were saying, maybe the single family homes look more lucrative to you right now.
Well, that's very how should I say? That's very zip code specific because like you can go into the next zip code over and it not make sense at all. So it's just up where I'm looking. I just happen to find some that are starting to cash flow and stuff. And even like the ones I was telling you guys about a month ago, those are all gone. And I haven't seen any come back on. And I'm not saying that it won't ever happen again, but it might not happen again until like the fourth quarter of this year. It's not something that comes up every day. But you just know your buy box. Just know what you're looking for, and just when you know that when you see something that it could be a good deal. And I'm not saying that just because it fits all of the criteria of the buy box that it is. You go look at it, or have someone go look at it for you. It could all pencil out and all good and stuff, and then you have someone go look there, and you have a foot of water in the basement.
Jeremy, what about you? You think that kind of Is that what you're seeing also? Maybe small multis are getting a little more difficult to find because everyone is trying to do the house hack thing now?
Yeah, so I think it, like Jack said, it really depends on the neighborhood. What we're seeing is these neighborhoods that are desirable from an owner occupant standpoint, they're kind of those are the neighborhoods that just make no sense anymore. It's like you used to be able to get positive cash flow there, but now I think it's a combination of house hacking becoming mainstream now to the point where if you get in an owner occupant neighborhood, the people buying the 2 to 4 units are not investors in any way, shape, or form. So they're looking at it from the standpoint that, oh, if I want to live in this great neighborhood, this is what I would have to pay in rent. I can go buy this unit. I'm willing to be a landlord to live here for half the price than what I would have to pay in rent and own a property. That, or they're priced out of that neighborhood for a single family home. So they're willing to be a landlord to live in the neighborhood they want to live in. So it's it's good and bad. Like if you can catch a neighborhood that is on the cusp of becoming an owner occupant neighborhood, we've seen it with some neighborhoods here for sure. The appreciation from a percentage standpoint has been crazy, specifically on the 2 to 4 units because of that dynamic. Whereas if you go into like a C class neighborhood, it's still just investors buying there. So those haven't, they've definitely creeped up in price. Everything has, mainly because like the out of state investment, people just be liking real estate investing in general, that becoming more popular of an asset class. That's kind of, there's more of a gap, I guess you could say, between the high end and the low end, essentially. So, like I said, pros and cons. It's making it tougher on the 2 to 4 units. But like myself, I'm still seeing stuff like a lot of mine are kind of outside Allegheny County in the more, still close enough you can find good renters. It's close to the major job centers, but it's kind of not where the masses are. So that's where you can get some good cash flows, kind of knowing where the masses are looking or the owner occupants and maybe trying to sidestep that. Like something I like a lot, in at least in this market, is nicer pockets of the C class neighborhoods. You can kind of take advantage of the fact that a lot of people are basically writing off this entire neighborhood because they think it's all bad. But Pittsburgh has a lot of section by section. There's nice sections and bad sections in the same neighborhood. If you can get into one of the nicer sections, that's kind of a way to get the best of both worlds. So it's more of just trickier to navigate, but if you know kind of the spots or property types where the masses aren't, it's still doable. But in general, just everywhere I think in the country, rent to price ratios have definitely went down. So the 2 to 4 units, it's just you're not seeing quite as many opportunities to get the cash flow that it might have been. But single family, like that can still work. Like I said, it's better. It's easier to find equity in those. So I even like it like now, something you can maybe do the Burr model or house flip a single family because you can get equity in them and then use that equity, whether it be now or later, for say a bigger multifamily. So we're not seeing as much in the 5+ unit space, at least from kind of newer investors, to the point where I think there's opportunity there as well, like 5 to 20 units that haven't kind of, they're still slightly inefficient. It hasn't kind of gotten taken over like the 2 to 4 units have started to a little bit, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So yeah, so Zach from Instagram wants me to connect you guys. So I'll send you guys information later, and you guys can connect and see what you guys can work on. And Joe V is here, and he's getting a little sensitive that I didn't say hello to him earlier. So, but Joe's a Packers fan. He's in Wisconsin, but he's upset that I didn't say hi to him. But he just came back from a cruise too, so he was on vacation. So I heard he had a lot of fun. And Big Val's here. Val is in Winston-Salem, so I met up with him when I was in North Carolina. And as he's the one that told me to go to Buc-ee's when I was down in Georgia. So as I came back, I went to South Carolina. As you can see, I got my my Buc-ee's coffee mug and my hat. And but that place was amazing. I probably spent like $250 at Buc-ee's, but it's a cool place, man. It's awesome. If you have a chance, I would go check it out. You'll be amazed. Have you been there, Jeremy?
No, I've heard of it, but I haven't
Yeah,
been there.
it is crazy, man. We got Harrison here, Trade Better 99. So he's also working with Jeremy, and I know you did a walkthrough for him recently. It kind of didn't pan out for maybe what he was looking for, but are those the kind of things that people can expect with your team if they reach out to you, as far as you doing walkthroughs for them and kind of helping them out see the properties?
Yeah, what we do with out of state clients is if it's something that looks good on the surface, whether it's something we send over to clients or they send over they might be interested in, we'll kind of talk through it. If the numbers look good on the surface, and we'll go view it. Basically do a video walkthrough. Like we'll just walk through, kind of make commentary as we're walking through things to look out for, like especially on some of the older homes, the whether the plumbing or electrical and whatnot has been updated. Those being the big things. But yeah, just walk through, upload to YouTube, send a link over of the property itself, and then if something looks good at that point, then make an offer on anything that kind of checks out after seeing it in person.
My friend Cam, who's also I think he's working with Alex Deacon, who you're also a part of his brokerage. But Cam's probably moving forward on a property that Alex has for him. But he just sent me a text with his Bucky's coffee mug too. So yeah, Bucky's. I'm telling you, it's an amazing experience. To go check it out. Hyder's here, so thanks for stopping by, Hyder. And Harrison says thank you for the video on the Butler property. So, like we said, you did a walkthrough for him, and unfortunately, he's probably not going to move forward on it. But you also did mention Lars is under contract. I know you kind of worked through some things with that, and even Brian, right? You also connected with Brian from the ORAT community, and I know he's having some issues with that. Has anything come through with that? That's a zoning one, right?
Yeah, we're switching lenders. That's another thing. It's just like you have weird stuff that pops up in some of these boroughs. Like that's McKees Rock's borough. So the property is a fourplex, and apparently the appraiser came through and they said that it's technically zoned R2. So it's allowed to be a fourplex now because it's grandfathered, but they're saying through the borough, if it were to burn down, it's technically R2. So you might not be able to build a fourplex if it were to burn down. So it caused problems with the one lender. Now it's just a matter of they were trying to get the borough to write a letter saying if it did burn down, we would allow it to be rebuilt as a fourplex, but the borough's just like MIA. It's just like it's been weeks and they just won't respond. So we're just switching lenders on that. But that's a nice property. It's 4 units, all 2 bedroom. They're renting for like 900 something each. And then the purchase price I think was 250. It's fully turnkey. So like that's a solid deal. It's in a nicer pocket of a C-class neighborhood. So like that would be a great example of that. It's just you do have some quirkiness that can pop up on the agent and the municipal side of things for some of these boroughs that kind of do things their own way.
Yeah. Colo 94. You watch
One of
rugby
the things I
league?
like to add to that is there's a lot of areas that have kind of a rougher reputation here in the Pittsburgh area. For example, I can't remember if you just said McKees Rocks or McKees Port, but
Both. You can put
yeah,
them both in the
they're
same
both
bucket.
that way. But for example, I'll just talk about the Rocks because I know a little bit more about the Rocks than McKees Port. But there's like 5 or 6 zip codes for McKees Rocks, and it's really just two or three that are bringing down that create the whole reputation. There's one zip code with McKees Rocks that's right up against Robinson that you wouldn't be able to tell the difference that you're in Robinson or outside of Robinson, I meant to
Yeah,
say.
it's crazy. We'll have the same zip code, but you have, say, an area that has an average household income of like 150, 200,000, sharing the same zip code of a lower income area where maybe that have average household income is like 40 grand. So it's like if you're trying to go based off zip codes in Pittsburgh, it's definitely not the best way to kind of try to filter through areas, quality of areas.
So Hyder gives us his take. I think he's talking about Brian's zoning issue. He says, imagine people getting together to establish government and government ruling the people the way that people do not want. Zoning and permits come to mind. Yeah. So like even I think Brian messaged me. He's like, yeah, Jeremy was like, this guy works maybe like once a week, or seems like he only works like once every 2 weeks or something. So we haven't even heard from him and things like that. So
It's
yeah.
crazy.
But yeah, I think pivoting to a different lender might be useful, and I'm sure yeah, I'll check in with Brian to see how things are going. But a lot of people probably also want to know maybe what's your guys' thoughts on as far as Pittsburgh, like the economy, maybe. I think the one thing I always see is population growth seems to be stagnant or somewhat declining slightly when you look at that. Do you guys have any takes on that?
I think we're
I think the big
positive now as of the last couple years.
Yeah, the big thing is too, when they do the census, it depends on when exactly they throw it out because Allegheny County is, I think it's always in the top five, it seems like. Sometimes it falls out, but people that snowbird. So there's people that are getting their censuses when they're down in Florida, for example, or in the southern states. And meanwhile, they also live up here. So that has a big impact on it too. Because what was it during the Bush administration? There was people that got counted twice. That was a big thing.
Yeah, it makes
Um,
sense. I know there's a lot of people that snowbird back and forth between Florida and Pittsburgh.
yeah, we got Zach making trouble as usual, and he says Doge got rid of these missing people. I'm not sure if he's talking. He's probably talking about the zoning guy for your permit issue.
Nobody knows
Um,
where he is.
yeah, but looks like from your channel, Jack, someone's tuning in. So harsh reality turned into fire. Tuning in, it says morning off from Kansas City. So yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. I know it's early. Oh shit, Brett's here. Another Wisconsin. Brett's a firefighter. He's doing cool stuff there, but he's here probably to make trouble. But what's up, Brett? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah. I know. So, what do you guys, I guess, working on beside that? I know, Jack. Do you have questions about Jeremy more on the agent side, like other things? Because so Jeremy, Jack is considering getting his license.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a proponent of getting it if you are doing either high volume on the investor side, if you want it just to benefit yourself. If not, I think you almost have to want to do the agent thing as your main source of active income to make it worth it. So those would be kind of the two reasons why I think it would make sense to get the license. But if you're just maybe doing like one or two deals a year, there's a lot of red tape that goes along with it. Like you have a fiduciary duty, so you can't really say you're trying to do an off-market deal. You have to speak to sellers differently if you're licensed as an agent than you would just if you were just an investor because you have to tell 100% the truth. You can't really try to get a good deal from a seller if you're licensed. So you have to be careful with that, doing both at the same time. So that's a big thing. And then the fees are kind of high. So like for me, I think I pay $100 a month. You have to pay like $600 a year to get your license renewed. Continuing education, depending on how much that is, I think like you're paying at least a few $100 every other year for continuing education. So there's a lot of fees that can go along with it, but I think having access to the MLS and just doing this on a daily basis as an agent has definitely benefited me on the investor side, just mainly from knowing the market. Like I know pretty much all of these areas like the back of my hand at this point that I might otherwise not have known that if I was just an investor. But like I'm in all the different neighborhoods for clients to the point where like probably just me at this point, I've sold dang near 400-500 properties just myself. So it's like selling that many properties, you're in a lot of different neighborhoods over the course of time. So that has benefited me a lot. And being able to make money on the agent side actively, it's definitely a good tandem for the investor side of things to work both of them hand in hand because they tie in so well. And the other thing is the real estate professional status. I can make money as an agent and get the write-offs from the rental properties to the point where like I just was looking at my tax return yesterday. My taxable income is technically on paper less than my wife who's a teacher. So it's like you can do some really cool stuff being an investor and an agent with the real estate professional status. And once you get a decent sized portfolio to kind of utilize depreciation and cost segregations and bonus depreciation and all that to really pay way less taxes than you otherwise would have if you were just an agent. So there's a lot of pros to it, but just knowing the cons of the fiduciary duty and the fees, I would say, is kind of the big things as far as the negatives, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about, sorry, so what about like let's say you did have an off market deal, for example, and you have to just more or less just really watch and you're doing like let's say a flip, for example. How would you handle that situation?
So it's one of those things. It's like if I'm trying to buy an off market deal for myself and the seller says, "What do you think this house is worth?" I can't I have to tell them, like, if you were to sell this on the market, it might be worth this. You kind of have to present all the opportunities. Whereas you could say, me as an investor, I'd be willing to pay this. Whereas, like, if I was just an investor, not licensed, I could kind of just focus on the investor side of things. I can't stretch the truth as an agent. You kind of have to be fully upfront with them.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you aren't technically having the fiduciary duty that you're supposed to have as an agent. So I would say that would be the biggest downside of being licensed and doing off market stuff.
Harrison has a question for you, Jeremy. He says, Jeremy, do large multi-properties rent easily in Pittsburgh? Is there lots of deferred maintenance on these buildings?
Yeah, if you're in a good enough area and the units are nice, they'll rent. I think it's just with the bigger buildings, you kind of have to be more concerned with curb appeal and the community itself. Like if you have one bad tenant in a community, then it can kind of start to rub off on the others. So that whereas like a smaller one, like a 2 or 3 unit, it's not quite as big of a deal. You can kind of the the effects of that once you go into like say something like we have a few 8 unit buildings, we just have to be more careful with the curb appeal and the general overall condition of the property. But outside of that, it's pretty similar as just any apartment in general if it's in a good area and the units are nice themselves.
So I put Jack's YouTube channel also in the chat. So if no one has, please go check it out, subscribe. He's doing a lot of cool daily stuff, little updates. And I know Jeremy, that's what you're kind of pivoting to. So I don't know. Were you able to connect your guys' channel? I know you guys said you just started a new one, right? Or
I didn't roll out the YouTube channel yet. I wanted to get like 4 or 5 videos. So that'll probably be coming soon. I tried to connect my Instagram, but I don't know if it worked.
yeah, Instagram is a little bit harder. You gotta, yeah, that's why you gotta start it first and then you gotta go back and go live there. So that's why Instagram is a little bit trickier out of the other platforms. But we
But
are
yeah,
on Instagram right now.
YouTube
Uh,
channel, I'm definitely gonna start up here soon. Like we've been doing some videos. Me and Liam the other day we're doing kind of neighborhood deep dives. So really doing each section of the city and then outside the city, kind of diving deep into the different areas as far as rent to price ratios, what strategies work in different neighborhoods. So stuff like that I think would be valuable for clients.
all right. Oh, cool. So Hyder says, so Hyder has a YouTube channel also. Go check it out. He says his bad tenants are becoming his specialty to deal with. So he does finally have his Safe Streets Now channel uploaded. Is that a separate channel, Hyder? I'm not sure. Let me know or put it in the chat if you can. But Hyder's got some stuff he's working on. So everyone go support him also. But yeah, so how's everything else going on in the real estate market for you? So I know Jeremy, you travel quite a bit, right? You do a lot of national parks you go check out. So has real estate given you this freedom to allow you to take all these vacations and go see the country, I guess?
Yeah, because it's nice. Like we can go away for a week or two and everything still runs smoothly. The agent side, I have the team. The rental side, it's nice because you don't physically have to be there. So that's been big. Like we didn't really take any vacations the first like 4 years, 4 or 5 years when we were kind of getting things built. But now I think that's a nice thing about real estate investing is the fact that you don't have to physically be there at all times. It gives you that lifestyle flexibility to hit all the national parks and still collect your rents and make sure everything is taken care of remotely to the point where you don't have to be there 24/7. So that's definitely helpful as far as once you get to the point where you can essentially live off the rentals.
I forget. I don't want to throw this out there, but were you engaged now? Or I forget. Was she your fiance, or did you guys get married?
Married, yeah, in
Okay.
October.
All right, that's right. I remember something like that. And then I forget, weren't you guys, didn't she have like a primary residence you guys are gonna move into, or the house hacking was done?
So we're doing a modified version of house hacking now. We still have the two houses. We have my seventh house hack, which was a fourplex in Southside in the city. That's our city house. And then my me and my mom bought my grandpa's house after he had passed away a couple years ago. So we own that house in an LLC. And me and my wife well, she's technically the tenant in the house, paying the LLC rent. So we're kind of house hacking that, I guess, rather than renting it out market rent. That one's actually in Butler, which is where we both grew up. Um, so we're there half the time, and then we're in the city house half the time. So that's kind of the house hacking situation currently until we kind of know where we want to be long term. Eventually, we'll probably buy a single family house closer to the city that's kind of not in the city, but like one of the suburbs outside the city. Looking at potentially live in flips now. We would do one of those, live there a couple years, fix it up, sell it. So maybe we'll get into some live in flips here going forward if we find something that makes sense. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
Nice. Butler, isn't that your area, Jack?
Yeah, that's where I just switched to. Was it last year or year and a half ago? Before I was doing Freeport and the surrounding towns in that area.
Yeah, okay. You can get good cash flow for sure.
There's just not a whole lot that goes on the market with Freeport. Like you, maybe one or
Yeah.
two small ones a year, and everything on the other side of the river is just not as desirable. It just drops like $300 a month of rent because I think just crossing that river adds so much time to your commute to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Let's see. Grumpy Contractor Jim says, can you get 20 plus year financing on small to medium multifamily? So Dylan kind of answered that for him. But Jeremy, so like if people connect with you, do you have lenders that you can recommend that work with, contractors, things like that?
Yeah, we pretty much just refer the same people we use, like that I use on my deals, the guys on my team use. So essentially the same people we're using for financing contractors, we just refer to our clients. So kind of keep it in house, I guess you could say. We keep our contractors busy. We don't have enough deals for them, then our clients are needing rehabs as well. So it's helpful to kind of keep good people and have being able to refer them to clients as well.
So we were talking about national parks, and Jovi chimes in and says the libs said the parks are all closed since Doge fired everyone. Yeah.
I think they've been having issues with that,
Yeah.
yeah, because a lot of these
Yeah.
park rangers weren't really doing much.
Yeah. So yes, Safe Streets Now. So it looks like Hyder's new channel is up and running. So everyone go check it out and please subscribe and support so he can start. I'm not sure how many subscribers you have yet, but hopefully you can start doing some lives from there too, Hyder. Let's see. Lane 5 Andy says, my wife's broker has been trying to get me to finish my real estate test. Like Jeremy said, the cost of retaining the license and the fiduciary duties doesn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't always work out, right? There's some, I mean, but I think that's why you also got to find maybe what brokerage works best for you as far as a fee structure and whatnot, and what your goals are, right? So but there is, like you're saying, from the tax side, there is benefits too, where you can offset some of that and getting access to the MLS. So yeah, you gotta weigh the pros and cons, but definitely I would talk to different brokerages and see what their fee structures look like and see what works best for you.
I have gotten quite a few deals that I otherwise wouldn't have gotten if I wasn't deep into the agent side of things, for sure. So that's a pro as well.
So Jack, are you still thinking about getting your license? I mean, what do you work? Update us on what you're doing right now.
I'm still thinking about getting my license. I'm not sure. I like to try and get the ball rolling, maybe get started in 26. I like to try and get through everything maybe this year. I think my biggest thing is that I like to try and do more of like what you're doing, Mark, the revenue stream and stuff. But or what was it called? Revenue share. Sorry,
Yeah, with
but
EXP. So when Jeremy's ready to come to EXP, then we can talk.
They do have a nice profit sharing thing, at least
Yes.
my knowledge of it.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like your fees are already low for you. So you're probably experienced, like you're successful. So I'm sure the brokerage you're under kind of gives you a slightly better rate, right? As far, so newer agents are probably going to have a higher fee structure when they first come in. But EXP definitely has lower fees and a different payout structure. So you got to weigh your pros and cons. EXP, you're kind of on your own a little bit. So definitely you may not get as much support as if you're a newer agent. So that's something you got to weigh in. I was trying to subscribe to Hyder's channel doing this, but I can't. It doesn't pop up yet, so I'll take a look after. Yeah, let's see what else. What, you got anything
Yeah,
else
and
over
on the
here?
agent side of things, like a big thing for me at the beginning was Alex and Ian, my brokers. Like they since the start for me, they've been a wealth of knowledge, not only on the agent side, but the investor side as well. So that was kind of the big draw for Deacon Hoover for me personally is was that side of it as well.
Yeah, so I love Alex. Alex is a great guy. He's a lot of help. So that's why anyone that reaches out to me that's interested in investing in Pittsburgh, I usually send them to Alex and you, Jeremy, and kind of let them decide who fits their strategy or personality a lot better. Um, I think a lot of people go with you. I think you're just, maybe younger and have a little more uh, hunger, I guess. I think Alex is kind of winding down.
Yeah.
He has a lot of knowledge, but definitely he kind of, he great information. But like I said, a lot of people, maybe not tech savvy or anything, but maybe your emails are a little bit quicker response and things like that. So I think a lot of people do appreciate that. So, but yeah, I don't tell anyone, hey, you only work with Alex or you only work with Jeremy or some other people I know. I kind of just, hey, connect with these guys and kind of see who fits your personality a lot better. And but yeah, a lot of people like working with you. A lot of good feedback. Like I said, Lars is under contract. Harrison was, thankful for the walkthrough, and like Brian and unfortunately, Willis is having some issues on his own burr in Jersey, so I think he's paused some things, right? But another thing, I know Mikey also works with. Oh, well, he's not with you anymore. But do you guys also do property management or anything?
We usually refer to Mace. Property management is not a business I want to get in myself. I was in it for a couple years after I had initially left my W-2 job as a property manager. So like I managed properties for out of state clients through Mace. So I kind of got the nitty gritty, seeing everything that goes on in the property management business. And that's why, like, knowing what I know about it, I just wouldn't want to start a property management company because of that. So we usually just refer to Mace, or if it depending on where the property is located, different property management companies as well. Like Mace is a little bit west of downtown Pittsburgh. So if it's something that's like up where Jack is in Freeport, that's not something I would refer Mace to. So I think with property management, it's just if you can find a company that's somewhat close to where the property is located, they tend to have more resources and it runs more efficiently than if you want to have a property an hour away from the management company's office. You can run into issues with that. But yeah, we still do leasing for clients, but not the actual management side of things.
Okay. So yeah, so if anyone, like I said, me, Mikey, we also, so Mace is part of Alex Deacon's brokerage or company or kind of spin off, I guess. But so we do have properties under Mace. Jen, sorry if I send her in your direction. But no, she's a lot of fun. She's her and her husband Kenny are great. But Jen says, can you still burr deals in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, so it's changed. Before you could burr, you could get equity and cash flow on a single family house when rates were 3%. Now it's more so unless you're doing a 5+ unit multifamily burr, maybe a 2 to 4 unit, but like most of them, the 2 to 4 units, you can't get the equity side of it. You can, but you're not going to be all in for like 70% of ARV, like a single family potentially could. The single families are what we're doing most of. It's just like you're getting the equity, but when you refinance, you're going to have to leave a little bit of money in it just because the DSCR on the back end, the rent versus the mortgage payment with the higher interest rate, the lenders are tend to lower the LTVs on the loans, at least if you're doing DSCR or commercial loans. If you're doing in your personal name, you can still go 80% loan to value. It's just probably not going to cash flow. It might be negative at 80%. So it's kind of like before you could just rinse and repeat, build a portfolio of equity and cash flow with the same properties. Now I think you have to break it into two steps. Like the birds that I'm doing now, they're kind of in higher end areas. I'm viewing them more as getting that initial chunk of equity and then waiting 5 to 10 years. Ideally, if I could get a tenant to buy the single family house, I'll 1031 exchange into a 5+ unit multifamily that's really going to cash flow. So I'm viewing the burrs more as increase your net worth through chunks of equity that you can still do here. Like we're seeing properties, even single families, where clients are getting 50 grand in equity just in each one, basically. So say you do 10 of those, you got 500 grand in equity, let that build for 5 years, 10 years. Whenever you want to retire and live off the cash flow, you can start 1031 exchanging to get that cash flow. Or if you can find a unicorn, a multifamily that you can be all in for 70% of the ARV, they have better rent to price ratios than single families. But it's just finding something that is all in for 70% or less of ARV. But if you can find something, tends to just be people are paying more for those because they cash flow better. And the other side of it is they cost more to rehab compared to a single family house, but the ARVs are similar. Like in the same neighborhood, a single family could be worth the same as a duplex. So it kind of complicates it from that standpoint. But so I guess the answer would be yes and no. You just kind of have to view it a little differently than when rates were low and the rent to price ratios were much better than they are now. It's more of a two-step process than a one-step process, unless you can find a multifamily that fits the bill, basically would be the best way to put it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, Jeremy also works with OE Nicholas, Orange Juice Property. So OE is also part of the One Rental at a Time community. He's been at the last two events in Vegas, and I know he's done some burrs through Jeremy and stuff.
Yeah,
So
he's found some good Maltese. So he's kind of found the as close as you can get to a unicorn, where it's like I think the one he just did recently was a duplex, and the one we're trying to close on now, some issues with zoning there also. It's a duplex as well that he's going to burr. So he's trying to go the route of finding the ones that are kind of the nice in between space.
is the one that you guys are working on now, because I know he talked about it, I think, with Zuber and the community. He got a real good disrespectful offer on it. I believe it was
Yeah,
listed. Yeah.
we got it at quite a bit under contract, quite a bit under asking price. But the issue is in the city of Pittsburgh, half of these multis don't have occupancy permits on file. So this one was clearly a duplex, but they didn't actually have a duplex occupancy permit. So we told the seller we weren't going to close until they got that. So now it's been going through attorneys in the city to get a duplex occupancy permit. We're almost at the tail end of it. It's almost done, but it's just been taking forever. But we were thankful that the seller was willing to get the occupancy permit prior to closing, because otherwise, if you close on it, you have that risk of it might not be able to be used as a duplex if it doesn't have the occupancy permit. So you got crazy stuff like that with zoning, even in the city of Pittsburgh itself.
So aloha, CH Pablo. I haven't seen you here before, but thanks for stopping by. Please hit the subscribe button and like. But he does have a question. I believe he's asking, what's the burrows? I believe he's trying to learn, he said. So can both of you guys maybe touch on that?
What the burrs are
N- Well, I don't know if he means what is
or burrow.
burrs or what does burrows mean when you guys mentioned that. So
Oh,
maybe both of you,
burrows.
yeah.
Boroughs are just individual municipalities. They're essentially like townships, but I don't know if it's a Pittsburgh thing, but they're little small neighborhoods that aren't in the city. They're outside the city. They're their own municipalities. They have their own kind of council governments, very small, just a few people sometimes, but they kind of run things how they want to run it because they are their own municipality. They don't have to they don't fall under the city of Pittsburgh. So they're neighborhoods. I think it's just like they're small enough to be an individual neighborhood. They call them a borough because they are their own essentially that they don't have to speak to anybody else outside of that.
Okay, so CH, that was a breakdown of what boroughs is, and we were also talking about the Burr strategy. So like Hyder mentions, Burr stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. Um, can you guys maybe break that down a little bit more about how like a Burr would work out?
Yeah. So with burrs, you're looking for something that you know the value of it fixed up, or that's more in a single family. The value of it fixed up is way higher than what it would be as what you're purchasing it for plus the rehab you put into it. So you're trying to find that spread that you can get equity in it rather than just buying something at market value. So just rough number examples, you buy something for 60,000, you put 40,000 into it to rehab it, you're all in it for 100,000. Then you might have some closing costs on the front end, and when you go to refinance it, of call it 7,000. So say you're all in for 107,000. At the end of the day, once you place a tenant in here and it's fixed up, it could be worth 150,000. So you just kind of created that spread out of thin air to the point where rather than just buying something turnkey that's worth 150. So that's kind of single family. And then multifamily, I like if you can get a 5+ unit, you can do a burr, you can increase the value without even rehabbing it. If you find something that is under rented, you just go in there and get the units up to market rent. You can increase the value directly because the 5+ units are valued based off of the income they bring in rather than what the comparables are. So big fan of the 5+ unit burrs because you can kind of have different ways to get to the increased value, whether it be rehabbing or just making the units rent for more than they are now. So it's just building value out of thin air, basically, to kind of make your money go farther. And the nice thing is with the burrs, if you buy a good enough deal, you can borrow other people's money to buy it, essentially, to the point where you don't need to use all of your own cash to purchase it and rehab it.
Uh, Jen must not have been paying attention because she said we skipped her question. But I guess it was about finding bird deals in Pittsburgh. Um, you got to watch the replay then, Jen. But he did kind of answer it. So he said,
Yeah,
kind of, yeah. If you want to quickly maybe recap it.
you can, but there's caveats with it now. You can't really, they're not sitting ducks. You can buy it and cash flow, get equity and cash flow right off the bat on a single family. You kind of either need to do the two-step process of getting a single family burr. You're not going to cash flow a ton right off the bat, but if you wait 5 to 10 years, it will start to cash flow. Or you could use that equity you've built to either flip it and put that money as a down payment into a multi that will cash flow, or eventually you could 1031 sell the rental that you've held for 5 to 10 years and use that to turn into the multifamily. So it's a little harder to kind of get both unless you can find a multifamily burr that will cash flow and have the equity side of things. Those are just a little trickier to find, but it's still doable. It's just not as easy as it used to be, basically.
What would you say is maybe, do you have like kind of a price point? Like for, like you're saying, like a five plex or 5 unit multi for a burr, kind of what price point would you be looking at, you think?
So it's more, I think the ARV of the specific areas is kind of what I like to tell people as far as where you can still burr. Like single family wise, you could burr in pretty much any neighborhood except for like the very, very expensive neighborhoods previously. Because if I have a house that's worth 300,000 and it's renting for call it 2,000, when rates were at 3%, like you could still burr that because the loan to values on the back end were higher. Whereas now, if it's rent for 2,000, it's worth 300 grand, and you're getting a mortgage at 7%. That is going to be a very low loan to value. It might be 50% to the point where it makes it problematic to try to burr that when you can only get a 50% loan to value loan on the back end. So now you kind of have to stay in areas where the ARVs are 200,000 or less because the rents they're lower. Like it might not rent for 2,000, but you can get pretty close to the 1% mark. Like if that house is worth 200,000, it might rent for still 16, 17, 1,800. So that's going to get you a higher loan to value than that $300,000 one renting for 2,000 would. So you kind of just have to go in the cheaper areas now to still make it happen. And like I said, even then, you're really not cash flowing a ton when you do refinance, but you can stand a better chance of pulling most, if not all, of your money out in that scenario. So you kind of just have to stay in the cheaper areas. And then same thing with the multifamily. Like I use price per unit as a kind of gauge on neighborhoods for that. So price per unit, you can't really go in areas that are too much higher than like 125,000 per unit. So like say you go into Shady Side where those things are selling for some of them 250, 300 grand per unit. The rents are they just don't keep up. So like it's harder to burr there. Whereas like if you have something that's say a fourplex, it's worth 100,000 per unit fixed up, $400,000 ARV, you can still rent those for say 1,000 a piece at least to the point where it's hitting the 1% rule mark in terms of rent to price ratio. So same thing there. You just have to stay under a certain price per unit neighborhood to make it still work. You can't get into too expensive areas. Otherwise, the rents won't keep up enough with the values to enable you to get a high enough loan to value when you go to refinance to pull your money back out. So that's kind of the main difference.
Yeah, that's why I said I apologize ahead of time if Jen and Kenny reach out to you. But I said I'll try to make sure that Kenny's the one that reaches out to you instead. But so Jen and Kenny are in California, so they're in an expensive market. But they're investing in Texas right now, and they're also finding it difficult to navigate, with higher insurance, property taxes, and things. So I know they're kind of trying to see if there's other markets out there that make sense. So yeah, if they want, I'll let them know, and then they can connect with you and see if things can work out. But I think another question people might have is, do you find a lot of off-market deals for your clients? I mean, is that something that you bring to the table also?
Yeah, so we're getting all the wholesaler emails. Like I said, it's just kind of we were already getting them as investors ourselves. So we see them every day. We're going through every single wholesale deal that comes through and kind of scrubbing those. And if we see something that we think is a good deal, we'll send it to any clients that we know are looking for that particular property or price point or area or whatnot. So it's a lot of wholesale deals. That those can still be pretty good deals, although those have even become pretty competitive as well. And then just through the network, like we're always kind of getting stuff that's off market, whether it be say an owner that has Mace managing their properties that wants to sell. A lot of times we're seeing those before we list them on the market. So if it's something we know a certain investor is looking for, say a cash flowing multi, we can kind of offer that, put the seller together with a buyer without even listing it on the market. So there's scenarios that happens quite a bit as well. And then we do some off market outreach naturally, just like I do a lot of that myself as an investor. It might not be something I would purchase, but if I'm sending mailers out or just finding anything through direct to seller outreach or through the network, then a lot of times we can kind of have offer it to clients rather than just wholesaling it to anybody or listing it on the market basically. So just like kind of the same thing, the ecosystem that we built with the agent and the investor side presents opportunities outside of just the MLS.
Dylan, who also just got his license recently, he's doing more commercial side. I always forget. I think he's in Indiana, not Illinois. But he said I found in 5+ multi that even properties that hit the 1% rule still have negative leverage and are hard to make work. I usually have to hit like 1.3 to 1.5 DSCR. Yeah, so
It's getting
things are,
trickier.
yeah, it is. But like you said, people are still finding deals out there. Like Jen, I don't know if you heard that part, but like Jeremy also works with OE Nicholas. He's in the ORAT community. He was at both ORAT events, and he was the one. I don't know if people remember, but he mentioned to Zuber about this disrespectful offer. Like a multifamily that was sitting on the market for a while, and I believe it was probably listed initially at like 400K or something, and he may have got it at like 250 or 220 or something. But so yeah, so people are still finding deals out there, and Pittsburgh is still affordable. Um, what are you guys seeing a lot of taxes or insurance issues for you folks, Jack and Jeremy?
It's burning a lot of people to the point where I think the main thing, this goes back to working with people that know what they're doing. Some of the higher tax areas, like the high tax millage rates, the boroughs outside of the city, if you buy something for way higher than it's assessed at, they're going to come in right away and appeal those taxes. So we're seeing like Bellevue would be a good example of this. It's a nice borough just outside city limits, nice walkable downtown. It's becoming more popular for owner occupants. So it's been kind of a popular neighborhood for out of state investment until they go in, they buy these things for double the assessed value. The taxes might have been 3 grand, 4 grand. Some of them are going to like almost 10 grand. Like they're doubling. And as everybody knows, people were buying stuff on very thin margins the last couple years, especially when rates were lower, to the point where they're getting this tax reassessment. And I won't even go into insurance. Like that's been a whole different ball game. There's those things are doubling almost as well. So it's like the tax and insurance bombs are making these break even, slightly positive properties turn pretty heavy negative, especially if people aren't factoring in maintenance and capex on the older homes to the point where you're seeing those things hit the market again within a couple years because they realize that. So we're seeing a lot of I'm seeing that happen now. A lot of these properties come back on that when they were purchased, I was probably like, what the heck? Like, who's buying this? It makes no sense. They're going to get reassessed. And what do you know? It comes back on the market 2 years later. And now that rates are higher and the market's cooled down, you're seeing a lot of these not even be able to fetch what they sold for previously, especially some of the bigger multifamily, because a lot of them have adjustable interest rates. The 5 year term, especially, or some of them are even less than 5 years, if people were kind of not taking that into account that rates could go up. So you're seeing that dynamic as well. It's a triple whammy on the 5+ unit space, or even some of the 2 to 4 units people were buying with commercial loans and they have adjustable interest rates. So it's that combined with tax reassessments and insurance going up so much. I don't think it's quite as much here compared to like Florida or Texas or Louisiana, but the whole country has to kind of increase the rates to make up for those higher hit areas that they can't just focus on those areas. These insurance companies are raising rates all over the place, basically.
And then correct me if I'm wrong. I think the one thing though with the property taxes you're saying though, they do not reassess every year though, typically, right? So it's like you're saying, if you buy double the assessed, previous value, then yeah, you're gonna hit with a big tax increase for the next year. But it doesn't reassess like some markets, like Texas, Hawaii, their property taxes reassess every year.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, it's each borough municipality does it their own way. So it's very reactive rather than proactive. I don't think they've done a full on countywide reassessment in Allegheny County for quite a while. Like it's been at least, I think, 15 years. to the point where the only ones that are getting reassessed are if they sold and the school district appeals. So it's a horrible system. Like you have like a neighborhood like Lawrenceville that gentrified quite a bit since early 2000s. Like you could buy houses for 20 grand there in early 2000s. Now they're selling for $500,000. So you have the same house right next to each other. If somebody had just purchased it last year, they're getting reassessed. Their taxes are going to say 6 grand, 7 grand, and their neighbor's paying 1,500 because they've lived there forever. So it's a horrible system, but I just don't think they have the resources to kind of, it costs a lot of money and time to do a county-wide reassessment. So there's been lawsuits, like they keep lowering the ratio of what the assessed value is based off the property taxes. So it's like there's ongoing lawsuits because of this whole property tax thing. People are obviously filing these lawsuits because of the whole neighbor situation. They're like, my neighbor's paying a third of what I'm paying. This is ridiculous. And like some of the higher tax areas are especially getting hit even harder because the millage rate is triple what it might be, say, in the city limit. So that's Allegheny County. And then like Washington County and Beaver County, they're outside Allegheny. They just did countywide reassessments. So they're basically went through and spent the time and money to go through every single property and assess it at a current market value based on the millage rates. So they're all kind of at today's values, whereas the city in Allegheny County, it's more of a mix, basically.
All right. What about you, Jack? How's your property insurance and taxes and everything? Anything blowing up for you?
Insurance is kind of more or less staying the same. Taxes for my properties in Armstrong County, they are done based upon the school district, and they've been going up like crazy lately just because they've been doing so many upgrades. The thing that kind of has been blowing up for me is really just the water, if you can believe it or not. When I first bought the places back in 2020, the water was like $50, a month, and it's gotten to the point where it's like $150 per unit now, and it's kind of crazy watching it because then they keep raising the garbage and the sewage fees as well. So we're per unit. I used to be about like $100 per unit. It's now closer to like three and a quarter per unit for each month, and that's kind of a thing that's I like. I'm still making money. I'm not complaining or anything, but was something that was kind of thrown at me that I wasn't necessarily expecting. On top of everything else with the school taxes and stuff going up.
Yeah, utilities is a big one too. It's definitely a good point that people kind of overlook. And now it's definitely, it doesn't creep up on you until it does.
All right. So we've been going for a little over an hour. I don't know how much time you guys got, but if you guys got to bounce, just let me know. I'm good for a little bit more. But yeah, this was a good, I think, Jeremy, a lot of people got some good information about the Pittsburgh market, surrounding areas. Jack will be having, are you going to be on the call today, Jack, for the Pittsburgh, PA surrounding area school call? I don't know. I know you said Harrison, right?
Yeah, Harrison will be doing this one. It's my last day of training on fire extinguishers.
Okay. So yeah, so that call is what, 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
Correct.
Zoom link. If you need it, message me. Jeremy, you're always welcome to join too, or if you got some properties that you want to bring and show some people. But it's kind of a Jack's thing. It's like a Pittsburgh area market, surrounding areas, people are looking to invest there. But if anyone wants to connect with Jeremy, let me know. I'll connect you with Zach, also Jeremy. But yeah, when can we expect that YouTube channel to come out, man?
Should be within the next couple weeks here. I've been doing some videos, so I want to get like 4 or 5 of them before I roll it out. But yeah, it's definitely something I want to focus on the rest of the year here for sure.
All right. So you're kind of pivoting a little bit more. So you're still going to be a part. I mean, you're still the lead. That's your team, though, right? You're just going to focus more on the lead generation side. You're saying, right?
Yeah, ideally, although I'm still involved. Like I'm going to properties as well. I enjoy doing it. I'll never be able to fully check out of that. But yeah, it's trying to just do more of the social media side of things to show people what we got going on as well than just kind of hitting the last year was crazy though, because I think it was just the transactions, a lot of transactions. It was to keep up with in general. But yeah, going forward, I definitely want to kind of do more in addition to that.
So yeah, so Dylan says, okay, when you get your channel up, let me know and I'll throw it in our little WhatsApp group stuff. Late Start Wealth says Florida has a cap on reassessment during continued ownership. It's 10% unhomestead and 3% homestead. They reassess when it changes hands. So yeah, so Late Start Wealth is doing like a house hack in Florida. So he's was at the event also, so it's good to meet him in person. But yeah, man, this was a good call. I think a lot of good information. Like I said, a lot of people are still looking for these markets that can get cash flow, so people are pivoting. Maybe we'll wrap up on this. I know Harrison, so he was investing, or his first investing property was in Ohio, but he was noticing there's so many flippers there, and it was hard to kind of find deals that worked. Are you seeing that in Pittsburgh also? There's just a lot of house flippers in the market, or is it just kind of buy and hold investors, you think?
We have flippers too. Um, I don't know how it is compared to Ohio. Like it's still doable to flip here. It hasn't, I wouldn't say it's overly saturated, at least right now. So we're still seeing some pretty good margins on that.
All right, man. So yeah, anything else you guys want to wrap it up? Anything else you guys want to put out there? Jack, you want to mention anything? When's your next video coming out, or what you're working on, or anything?
Or there's a video coming out today. It's the last meetup that we had. Then there's a short coming out. I'm gonna do a live probably today that'll be posted tomorrow, and it's the current remodel unit that I've been working on, and I'm gonna show the progress and what's gonna happen this weekend. So Monday, when I show the progress, it will be hopefully ready to clean and take pictures.
All right, and I see you've been doing a few more videos with Tom, right? You
Yeah,
guys been
yeah, did another
collaborating a little
one
bit
with
more.
Tom.
Cool. So yeah, everyone go. What was it? Working Man Investor? What was his channel again?
I believe so. I don't know why I always forget.
I forgot what. Yeah, I don't know if I have it here, but yeah. So go check that out. That's You've been collaborating with him quite a bit. Jeremy, I'll get your information out there to the people that want to connect with you, and hopefully Brian and Lars can figure out their zoning issues, and we can get those done with, and hopefully Harrison can find something soon. But yeah, we'll get you back on, man. I think we'll get you on a regular basis. Like you said, you're gonna focus more on that side. So this was fun, and yeah, we'll do it again. All right, thanks
I looked
everyone.
it up
Thanks
real
for
quick.
tuning in.
It's
What is
I
that?
looked up real quick. It's a working man investor, like you
Yeah,
said.
yeah, Working Man Investor. So Tom, who is a big uneducated economist kind of follower. He's in the school community, but yeah, he's trying to build his channel. So go check him out. Go subscribe. Like I said, I don't think I have. Oh, here I do. I do. Oh yeah, here I go. So if you can, real quickly, go to his channel. Go subscribe. Jack's I've been doing a lot of stuff with him, and yeah, Jeremy. Like I said, I'll send you the Zoom link if you want to jump in tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
What
Kind
is it? Zuber's school? Is that what you're
of
referring to,
it
or
it
is it?
is, but Zuber also has different people kind of running calls or accountability groups. So this is kind of Jack's thing. So it's kind of a Pittsburgh area, surrounding markets. People may be interested to want to know more about it. But yeah, we give it to anyone interested, kind of wants to tune in, talk story, maybe what they're working on or what issues they're coming up with. So Lars tunes in, or Lars jumps in a lot too. I know he's been kind of mentioning some of the issues maybe with the sewer scope and whatnot. So just throwing those things in there, and other people kind of give their feedback and if they've been through it and whatnot. But yeah, anyone's
Mhm.
welcome. So I'll send you the link if you have time, or like I said, if you have any deals that come through, off market, and you want to present it or kind of show people what's out there, yeah, feel free to jump in, man.
Yeah, send it over.
All right, everyone. And I will be back. Shoots, man. Tomorrow's gonna be a fun one, I think. Tomorrow I'll be back, I believe, 5, no, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. It's gonna be with Tyler and Aaron from First Responder Financial Freedom. So every time I get those two guys on, it's a little wild, little unfiltered. Aaron is a little therapist, conspiracy theory guy, tinfoil hat wearer, but he likes to stir things up. So come check us out tomorrow.